Reading with Mrs. R.
Today we'll be reading The Velveteen Rabbit by Marjorie Williams. Once upon a time, there was a Velveteen Rabbit, and he was nearly perfect. He had smooth spotted fur, real thread whiskers, and his ears were lined with the softest pink sateen. On one Christmas morning, he was sticking out the top of the boy's stocking, just waiting to be found. For a long time after Christmas, the Velveteen Rabbit lived in a toy chest in the nursery with many other toys. The other toys were not very nice, and the mechanical toys were particularly unfriendly. They were always bragging about this and that, and never gave a second thought or a kind word to the rabbit. The rabbit felt very unloved. The only toy that was nice to him at all was the rocking horse. The rocking horse had been in the nursery longer than any of the other toys. He was very wise. "What is real?" asked the rabbit one day. "Real is something that happens to you," answered the rocking horse. "When a child loves you, not just to play with, but really loves you, you become real." The rabbit thought for a moment. "Are you real?" The rocking horse smiled. "I am. When you become real, you can't become unreal again. It lasts forever." The rabbit thought how nice it would be to be real. One night, something wonderful happened. The boy picked up the rabbit and took him to bed with him. From then on, the rabbit looked forward to bedtime. The boy would tell him stories, and together they would play games. Of course, sometimes the boy hugged the rabbit very tightly, and other times the rabbit ended up so far under the pillow that he could hardly breathe. But most nights he and the boy snuggled together all night long. Spring came, and wherever the boy went, the rabbit did too. They spent lots of time outside. One evening the boy went in for dinner and left the rabbit in the garden. But when it was time to go to sleep that night, the boy insisted that his mother go out to the garden and to find the rabbit. "All that fuss for a silly toy rabbit," said the boy's mother as she wiped the dirt from the rabbit's fur. "He's not a toy," answered the boy, grabbing for the rabbit. "He's real." When the rabbit heard that, he knew what the rocking horse said was true. At last he was real. The boy had said it. One day that summer, the boy went off on his own while the rabbit waited for him in the grass. Suddenly, the rabbit saw two strange creatures. They were rabbits like him, but somehow they looked different. "Why don't you run and play with us?" one asked. "I don't feel like it," answered the rabbit. But all the while, the rabbit did want to jump up and play like the other rabbits. One of them came close and sniffed the rabbit. "He doesn't smell right. He doesn't even have hind legs. He's all one piece," explained the rabbit. "He isn't real." "Well, I am real," the rabbit shouted. "The boy said so." Just then there came footsteps. The two strange rabbits disappeared. "Come back," called the rabbit. "I know I'm real." The rabbit became more and more worn. He didn't mind, though. The rabbit knew that the boy had made him real, and it didn't matter how he looked. But one horrible day, the boy became very sick. Lots of doctors came and went in the boy's room, but they never noticed the rabbit, and the rabbit was glad. He knew the boy needed him. After a long time, the boy was better, but the germs that made him sick were everywhere. All the toys had to be thrown away. Out with the mechanical toys, the books, and the blocks. Out went the rabbit. The rabbit found himself at the top of a sack of discarded toys with nothing to do but sit and think. He thought about the boy, and then he thought about what the rocking horse had told him. What was the point of being real if it all ended like this? At that moment, he began to cry. But then a strange thing happened. Where the rabbit's tear had fallen, a flower grew out of the ground. It was so beautiful that the rabbit just sat and stared. Suddenly, the flower blossomed open and a fairy appeared. The fairy came close to the rabbit. "Little rabbit," she said, "I'm the nursery magic fairy. I take care of all playthings that the children have loved. When the children don't need them anymore, I take them away with me and make them real." "Well, wasn't I real before?" asked the rabbit. "You were real to the boy because he loved you," the fairy said. "Now you'll be real to everyone." She flew them to a field where many wild rabbits danced and played. "I've brought you a new playmate," said the fairy. "You must teach him all that he needs to know." The rabbit watched the other rabbits. He didn't want anyone to know that he was made all in one piece. The fairy had changed him completely, but he didn't know it. Then something tickled his nose, and he raised his hind leg to scratch it. And he discovered that he had hind legs. He leapt high up into the air and gave a whoop of joy. The seasons passed. In the spring, the boy was playing in the yard when two rabbits crept out and peeped at him. One looked familiar. "He's just like my old rabbit that was lost when I was sick," the boy thought. But he never knew that it was really his own rabbit, who had come back to see the child who had first helped him become real.